like to call the April 9th, 2025 meeting of the Ogden Town Board to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you remain standing for a moment of silent reflection and prayer for our military servicemen and women serving around the world, as well as for our first responders. Thank you. Well, thank you all for attending tonight. We've got a couple of agenda items, funding items, but we're going to start with a presentation from the Library Director, John Cohen. So, John, if you'd like to come up and tell us what's going on in the library.
I didn't know you were going to introduce me, so the first part of my speech said I'm John Cohen, but we all very happy to do that. And for those who don't know any of the audience, I'm the director of the Ogden Farmers Library, which is the library that serves the town of Ogden and the village of Spencerport. A year ago, the board issued a proclamation recognizing the library during National Library Week, and a couple of meetings later, I returned with an update on the state of the library. And I thought, when Christian invited me again for this meeting, I thought that would be a good tradition, that during Library Week, we discuss the library. Makes sense. So I'd like to start with a thank you, of course, for your ongoing support of the library. Because of that support, we continue to grow. Our circulation returned to 2019 levels last year after the speed bump of COVID from 2020 to 2022. It's grown again this year. Our program numbers have also increased with more of our residents attending programs in 2024 and early 2025 than ever before. Children and teens programs are up about 2 to 3%, while the adult programs continue to grow faster, thanks to the dedicated programming person the board enabled me to hire. The growth last year was an additional 100%. This over the new number from last year that was 400% higher than the year before that. It did start from a fairly low number. All that said, door count is still a little bit below 2019 levels. Door count is how many people physically come through the door. And I think that just means people are doing more each trip to the library. They're just less casually coming to the library and more making a plan of it. Computer usage, study room usage, meeting room usage are all up as well. We can't even always meet the demand for our meeting room. There's often conflicting requests. The demand for library items is also being filled on the digital level, and that may explain some of the door count issues as well. In the last year, Monroe County Library System, to which we belong, has added Canopy, which is a movie lending platform, and Udemy, an online learning system. They added this to their offerings in addition to our existing Libby and Hoopla platforms. Digital usage of resources is up, and it's a great supplement to what we provide in the physical space. We've also implemented our adult volunteer program. We already had a teen volunteer program where teens could volunteer just because they wanted to, or fulfill their participation in government hours or their honor society hours. Adults have long been asking to volunteer as well, but we didn't have the staffing to create a program until this year. Again, thank you to board funding. We've had 13 applicants already, 9 are already volunteering, and they're doing tasks that we don't get to as often as we might like, or that we can put aside in favor of doing them more effective with paid staff time. Tasks include dusting the bookshelves, keeping shelves in order, preparing supplies for our crafting programs, and taking care of our garden. Each volunteer is doing just 1 hour a week, and some are doing more. And if I'm doing my math correctly, the volunteers that we already have are donating at minimum wage cost over $10,000 this year in volunteer labor.
Wow.
And the program will only continue to grow. In recent years, the library went fine free, and I want to let you know the impact of that. Books are, on average, about a day more overdue than they were before we went fine free.
Sorry.
While I don't want to say
It's mostly my family, I'll be honest. 4 kids, it's a lot of books.
While I don't want to say this is unimportant, I don't consider it a significant problem. And we have had people express many positive feelings about this move, including some people who've returned to the library because they were embarrassed to come back when they had fines. Going fine free impacts people who are lower income more than others, and they need the library celebrating the most in some ways, so we're very happy to see this. I feel like I've gone on a little bit at this point, and I don't want to make Noel's hands fall off. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'm happy to move on. If there are no more questions, or none at all, I would just like to invite everyone to, and everyone in the audience to contact me anytime about library issues, and I'm happy to give you a tour of the library or discuss the library issues. I love talking about libraries, so I'm happy to make the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, very good. Well,
Thanks.
oh. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
I say we do just make it a full tradition and do the proclamation at the same time in the same week as we do these whole things. You know, I've got, actually, if the board would like to join me, and anybody else would like to join as well. Join the single out. You know, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of people understand the relationship between the library and the town, because it's a little bit different. Some libraries work for the town, and some just get funded by the town. So, in essence, the town gives I don't know what percentage, but a good percentage of the budget, most of the budget, to the library, and the library is its own governance. And I think in many cases that could lend itself to there being strife. It could lend itself to there being a relationship that is stressed. But I will tell you that, you know, and I'm not even going to take any credit for this. John constantly comes down whenever and I don't mean that in a bad way. You know, let's just say it, there's a lot of issues with ongoing libraries, between funding, between advocacy one way or another that lends itself to certain books being specifically targeted, and then there's threats to libraries, and John is very open about these things. He is a good partner, I think is the best thing that I want to say here tonight. He's a very good partner. We have him come to department head meetings. There's really, other than the governance itself by law, we really don't look at the library differently. We look at it as a partnership. John always wants a new building, and that's fine. I always want to be nearest to the library because we get to see all the things that they're doing. You're right, people do plan it as a trip because they're not just getting books. They're coming to Story Hour. They're coming to the different things that the library has. So I'll read part of this. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's a really good partnership, and it's not just because you are physically located in our building. It really is because you've made that something that is part of who you are in your DNA. You really, really love books, John. You're kind of a nerd. I would say that out loud. And since you don't work for me, and it's not an HR issue, I feel like I can say that.
I was talking to you.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But it is true. It's very, I wish it wasn't as unique as it is to find somebody who truly loves the aspects of their job, in all aspects, and you know, is able to build the relationships with the town like they do. So I give you all that credit, for sure. And I really do thank you for your advocacy for all things related to the library. So I just wanted to, actually, I wanted to have Steve Toms, who actually is our liaison. Back when I came in, I sort of switched the way that we did liaisonships because I wanted there to be more tangible, you know, relationships between some of our unaffiliated or loosely affiliated organizations. And so while we're not a board member, we don't attend library meetings all the time, I wanted there to be some tangibility there. So I'm going to step out for a second and have Steve, you don't have to read all of it, but have Steve as the liaison read whatever portions of this you'd really like, and if you have a couple words as well. So.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to just thank John for his leadership over there at the library. And as Mike touched on the budget and everything, he spends a lot of time not only massaging and working through that budget every year, and he has his own directors and meetings, and I attend occasionally. And Mike also touched a little bit about some of the funding of other library systems and stuff like that. And John wrote a great article out on his Facebook page, on the Ogden Library Facebook page, on how that could affect other library systems, but ours is not affected as much because of the way he's funded by the town. If you have an opportunity, I'd take the time to go and read that. So, again, thank you very much, John. He's always been professional with me and Mike and coming here to the rest of the town board. So, whereas the National Library Week was first observed in 1958 and has since become an annual celebration sponsored by the American Library Association, this week highlights the vital role libraries and library professionals play in transforming lives and strengthening communities. The 2025 celebration marks the 67th anniversary of the first event with the theme Drawn to the Library. I'm not going to read the next few sentences. So, during National Library Week, we celebrate the invaluable contributions to the Ogden Farmers Library and libraries across the nation, acknowledging their unwavering commitment to education, community empowerment, and the enrichment of lives in an increasingly interconnected and digital world. And now, therefore, we, the town board of the town of Ogden, proclaim April 6th through the 12th, 2025 as National Library Week. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Got it, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for allowing us to honor the library that way. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. This is Resolution 129.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Gerbino. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, we have privilege of the floor. This is an opportunity for members of the community to address the board with a question or a statement, something that you might want the board to hear. And really, it's on any topic that you'd like. Just as I just want everybody to know, we may or may not respond right here up on the dais. We could respond in letter or email if we don't have the answers. It's not necessarily a back and forth exchange, but just so you know, you're still obviously able to come and address the board at this time. So if you wouldn't mind, if you do have something you'd like to address, just state your name and address, and you can go forward from there.
Laura Brannigan, 115 Parkhurst Drive. I was following up from the February 26th meeting where you brought up the pro-housing, the changes
Yep.
to the pro-housing
Yeah.
community. First question, are we at the 3% for free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So-
automatically we would qualify.
Yeah, so it's quick history. This is the back and forth that I said that we don't do, but I do. The state tried taking control over zoning from towns, and every town said, you're not gonna do that. And Governor Hochul actually made a joke, although it was only funny to the rest of us when we were at the Association of Towns. She said something to the effect of, we heard, you don't want to be told what to do. And we're like, that's right, please stop. And what they wanted to do is basically just come in, grab a farm and say, we're changing that to multifamily and we're putting in low-income housing. That's hyperbole, but that's essentially what it was. We at the town, we said, wait a second, we're growing naturally. We don't need you to come in and tell us what to do. So they changed it, and I actually think this is way better. What they decided was, if you meet these benchmarks and you apply, and Christian, jump in and correct me on any of this, then you're eligible for grants. And the problem in this town and in most towns is they want housing. We do too. We also have bedrock, We have infrastructure issues. We have some places that don't have water. We have a lot of places that don't have sewer, and it's millions and millions and millions of dollars that we can't charge. And so what we really need is the state to provide a dedicated funding source for that infrastructure, because developers they are developing. We're gonna have hundreds more houses within the next year just because of, and not just houses, I mean housing. Because people are making those investments, but it's really difficult for these developers to make money once they're building an infrastructure. It's way more than you asked, but that's really the premise of this, is it qualifies us to be able to apply for grants, which will allow for more opportunities to come down the pipeline.
And is it rolling enrollment in terms of entering the program?
I don't know.
31st deadline?
I believe so.
Okay.
Christian has been our grant person, and so far he's wildly successful at it. But the other thing that's really important to understand is we're looking at a really diversified portfolio, like truly and honestly. We just sat down with a developer who we went back and forth on a couple of things, and they're really catering these dwellings for 50 plus that are they're modeling sort of condos, but they're owner occupied. We have nothing like that in the town. Yeah, owner occupied meaning they're going to buy it. It's not going to be just rentals. We have rentals, we have townhomes coming in, we have 26 unit apartments, and then we have single family homes. So we've got a pretty diverse already.
Road to Colby Road is
Yep.
a trip.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Interesting. So moving forward, but no definitive.
We're getting it. It's gonna
It's a
happen.
90-day period, they have to let us know, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Aurora. Anybody else wishing to address the board at this time?
Hi, my name is Sarah Snar. I live on Amity Street up in the village, 53 Amity in Spencerport. And I am here because it's Labor Week, and also because the federal government just implemented cuts that will affect the national, I gotta read this because I'm gonna say it wrong, the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. And you guys are aware that the town provides so much awesome funding to the library, and we have this awesome arrangement. But the fact of the matter is that those cuts are gonna affect the county library system. And we have to pay funds into that county library system for our digital loans, for interlibrary loan fees. And if those cuts go through at the federal level, then the fees that we need to pay to the county will go up. So there's gonna be a domino effect. So I'm here just to share with you my family's experience with the library. So I have 3 daughters. They grew up in Spencerport and spent time going to the programs. They spent time going to volunteer in the summertime. They read so many freaking books. I figured out what her limit was at one point on how many books you can check out. And ordering those books, researching those books, running those programs, those are things that volunteers can't do. So if our fees go up, then there'll have to be cuts in opening hours, in staffing, in ordering materials, and so and so on. Maybe we have fewer deliveries of interlibrary loan books. I literally was in this building yesterday picking up an interlibrary loan book. And I know there's so many other community members who take advantage of those county services. So, and as a taxpayer and a town resident, I know that those services at the library have saved our family a ton of money over the years. We've even borrowed some videos, not videotape, borrowed a couple of DVDs over the years because we wanted to finish watching a show that wasn't available on our streaming service. So we haven't had to subscribe to an extra streaming service. We haven't had to buy a lot of extra books that we needed to. And I would be more than happy to spend a couple extra dollars per year in tax money so that in the long term, all of our town residents are saving a few dollars and being able to access the awesome educational and other resources that we have at our library. So my 2 questions for you. First of all, does the town have contingency plans? If those cuts really do go through and we experience that domino effect, what's the contingency plan, so that we don't have to cut hours and we don't have to cut services? And then my second question is, do you guys support those cuts?
Well, I'll answer, I guess I could answer both. The first answer is that we really have to look at things on an annual basis. And the things that you say are cuts may or may not be actual cuts. They may be identified cuts. They may not be cut from a budget, because as of right now, we don't actually have a federal budget. We don't have a state budget. Yeah, and it does affect us. I guess the best way for me to characterize the answer to both questions is to look at the track record. I mean, when we had COVID and no one was allowed to come in, we still paid all of our people. We still wrote the check to the library. We still did the responsibilities that honestly we didn't really have to do. I mean, unemployment at the time was really good and for a lot of people, and they changed that, and we still paid our people, and we still provided health insurance, and we still did all of that. So at the end of the day, tomorrow it could change. A month it could change back, and then it could. So I used to overreact in every single one of those ways, and I've learned to just be patient. We don't have to build the budget right now, and so I'm going to be patient on that. We do build in contingency funds for various things, but we all also have to be flexible. And I'm not saying that directed at the library. We've had unexpected expenses that have come up that we never budgeted for, and we had to find a way to make that work. And that's, unfortunately, a budget is a budget that's built on projected revenues. It really is. And that's why sometimes, like tonight, you'll see a budget transfer, because we need to fulfill our obligations. And unfortunately, sometimes that means that services are limited. We just haven't had to do that yet, and we navigated COVID. So that's a roundabout way of saying, like, I'm confident that and John's been, like I said, he's been a good partner, that we will find a way to make sure that services are at a level that we all feel comfortable with. But yeah.
Hypothetically, worst case scenario, the town board is committed to maintaining services regardless of what happens at the federal and the county level.
I think that the best thing to do is, I don't even know the direct dollar impact to any of those cuts, and I think that would be important. I think when we went fine free, we started with funding half of that, and then the library actually picked up the other half, because they do receive funding outside of it. So, I mean, I also know that we've got an ambulance district that struggles to find people that we fund. We pay for that. I know that the town has a ton of obligations, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that to say that it is the obligation of the board to balance the amount that we charge to residents and provide the services. And I don't speak for all the members of the board. We're all elected completely separately, but I have a vested interest because I have 4 kids that go to the library and use it and return the books a day late. I will say, I return them more on time than my wife does. So, and this is on the record, so I just want to point that out. But, yeah, I mean, the other thing, our support for or against federal decisions have really nothing to do with our governance of the town. That it's more of a political question than a governance question, because our
Political question.
yeah.
I'd be curious in the answer.
Yeah, but this is not a political board, this is a governance board. So our job is to, I mean, I could ask the same questions regarding, funding from the state. I mean, it's one of those things that I'd love to wait and see. That's me.
Yeah. In general, funding for the library, do you guys feel like?
In
you're
general, I
committed?
think,
We'd love to, if we can. It's something we gotta balance. It's one of the things we have to balance.
but our support for the library tonight was all about that. So just as far as our mindset, that's where we're at.
And it's been consistent over the years as
Right.
well, so
And it's grown.
I don't see it ending.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
grown.
the library's such a great resource,
Absolutely.
so hopefully we can maintain that commitment with the dollars. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And honestly, thank you for saying that. We really don't get a lot of people that come in and talk about specific programs. So like when the fine free thing happened, we didn't have a whole bunch of residents coming and asking for it. So we're almost like, you know, thinking through these programs as a shot in the dark. So I just want to take an extra second to say thank you for that, so.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Betty Knight, and I live at 95 Lyle Street in Spencerport. And I have a short statement I'd like to read. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Tonight, I want to make you aware of my concerns about the potential impact of the DOJ and ICE actions that the government has undertaken. Because those actions are so broad, it's obvious that there will be an impact at the town level eventually. For instance, if those of us who depend on Social Security for our monthly living expenses were to have those dollars decreased or taken away, we could find ourselves dependent on the goodwill of our neighbors and friends in order to make ends meet. Will the town have access to resources to supplement the needs of our handicapped and our elderly? We have already seen cuts to the veterans' health programs. How's that impacting our vets here in Ogden? We know that DOJ has declared that school food programs can't buy from local farms. Is that affecting our local farms? We know that ICE is active in Rochester. I've read that our town supervisor has said that the Ogden Police will assist ICE in some of their deportation efforts, in spite of the fact that we're a sanctuary state. How does that affect any immigrants living in the town of Ogden? We have seen that ICE enters schools, hospitals, and other public places to make their captures. Will our police be helping to make that happen? In other words, I'm looking for our board to be aware of the changes that will come and to be prepared to take whatever actions are available to mitigate the harm. It can't just be business as usual. We're going to all be affected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One point of correction that you can go back and read, there is nothing in that statement that says that we will help with deportations. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board at this time? Hi.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Phillips, and I live at 1 Major Road. I guess a question that sort of parlays well off of the library question. My question is a little bit more broad about the potential cuts to federal funding, and I will admit that I guess I'm not a particularly informed townsperson, and that I don't know where all of the money for our town comes from. I know that it's partially from the taxes that I pay and that I happily pay, because I think the town does a great job funding things like the library, and we have a lot of other programs that are important, and it's very clear that there's going to be some impact to national level funding. I know that we don't have a budget yet, so we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but by all indications, there's going to be cuts to national level programs and national level funding, and I do believe that that will trickle down to the local level. So just from my quick reading of the town budget, I see $758,000 spent on parks, $115,000 spent on programs for seniors, $944,000 spent on programs for youth, additional funds spent on highway maintenance, brush removal, snow clearing, fixing potholes, things like that. What percentage of those funds is local funds, and what percentage of those funds are federal funds, either directly from the federal government or funds that are allocated to the states and then allocated further from the state money to the federal or to the local level? Is that going to affect the services that are available here to the townspeople, to your constituents, if that federal funding goes away?
Yeah, great question. So when you start talking numbers, I'm like, come alive, because this is like my jam. And I would invite you anytime if you want to come by, I'll literally show you our budget book where it's open, and to kind of just walk you through the various departments. It shows the revenues, it shows the expenses. I have no problem going through all that. Very briefly, we have about a $16.3 million budget. Half of that is raised in taxes, the other half is revenues. So whatever we raise in taxes, obviously there's no federal or state help in any of that. The other half, which is about $8 million, which is our levy, almost none of that comes from the federal government. And to be honest, not a lot of it really comes from the state. We do get things like CHIP funds, which helps with roads, but we also, there's not too many, there's a lot of state and county roads that we have in our town. So a lot of times people will be like, fix the potholes on Main Street, and we're like, that's in the village and a state road, and not part of our jurisdiction. It's actually one of the more frustrating things to say, because I get it, that it's very easy to just pass things off and say, well, that's somebody else's responsibility. But in this case, it's true. We can't maintain, unless there's a contract, we can't maintain things that aren't ours. I can't tell you specifically what state things will not be funded by federal government that we'll then get. I do know that things like grants do get affected, especially if they're federal grants. So I don't know the inner workings of where the state necessarily gets all of their money for grants from. I'm guessing that the majority of that is from different revenue sources that have nothing to do with the federal government, but I don't know that for a fact. So what I will say is that at this time right now, I do not see a major impact from any of the proposed federal cuts coming here, but all of it ends up trickling down, right? Like, we have a nutrition program that's funded by the county. Well, where does the county get the money? It could be in part from their share of tax dollars. It could be also coming from the state, who then gets it from the federal government. To be honest, I don't know that answer, but I do know that the revenue sources that we get without grants and without things like that are in the high 90s of local revenue, and not from the federal government. I do believe that the impact, the larger impact from anything that happens federally, we're pretty well insulated. And I actually say that in a benefit, but in a bad way. We don't qualify for most grants because our median income is really high. So it's a double-edged sword. Spencerport School District was similar before they had the lunch program. When I was on the school board there, we went through a lot of federal uncertainty under multiple presidents, when we had the ARRA funds, and there was the GAP funding, where the federal government did not fund school districts for years. We had to navigate that, but from Spencerport's perspective, we weren't receiving very much in funding from the federal government, so we were a little bit more insulated from those dips. I'm specifically remembering 2009 and 2010, when that was really tough. So I don't know. I'm sure that we'll get more of those answers as time goes on, but I do know we're very well insulated. Certainly not going to tell you that we will be completely unaffected by any cuts, but there's cuts in the state, there's cuts in every single year we have to adjust to some of the things that are handed down, so.
I don't remember the 2009, 2010, I was active duty at the time, I did not move here until 2011, but I've been here since 2011.
Yeah.
And I did grow up in the area, I grew up in Virgin. And I have not seen a significant difference in what the town's programs look like from year to year under different administrations on both the state and federal level. But this is sort of something we've never seen before. The climate as far as funding for the nation looks very different. And you just said yourself that we maybe get 90 or in the 90s percent. 90, you just said you come alive with numbers. You should know that 90 is not 100. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that we're looking at an increase in taxes to keep the services the same, or does it mean that we're looking at decreased services?
Well, you asked if the federal funding that we receive directly affects certain programs, right? And so what I'm telling you is that for the most part, if we receive a grant, a significant grant, and somehow there's a backdoor to the federal government to that, I don't ask the state where they get their money. I apply. When they say yes, I go, thank you, and then we move on. We make sure that there's grants that come in. The library received a grant for computers, and we try to, but I don't say, hey, did you get this from local tax dollars? Did you get this from federal? So when I say high 90s, I just want to say I don't know that it's 100 or not. because I don't know the back door to it. I don't know if we receive money from the county, who then gets it from the state, who then gets it from the federal government. That's what I mean. So thank you for letting me clarify that,
And
yeah.
that's likely, realistically, at all levels of government, money from different sources is intermingled, and it's not necessarily tracked to the dollar, but I expect that there will be a local impact, even if we aren't necessarily directly funded by the federal government.
100%. Yeah, and my point also.
What is the town going to do about it?
Well, my point also is over the last several years when we had, inflation that we had not seen for decades, you navigate that as well. When we purchase a vehicle and it doesn't come in for a year and a half, that's an impact too. We've navigated that. And that was over the last several years. When you order a police vehicle and it comes a year and a half later and all of a sudden the increased cost is $10,000 more. So this is the stuff that we do every day. You just have to navigate that. The people need to be paid. They need to have health insurance that we provide. And so where are the ways that we have to trim? We're not the school district. We don't have a $103 million budget that they're proposing. We have, we get $300,000. We get $300,000 to increase our budget every year. That's our 2% is $300,000.
I'm glad at least to hear you say that people deserve health insurance and fair wages, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that wishes to address the board at this time?
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Ellen Robler, 221 Hilltop Lane. I do have a statement I'd like to read, and then I do have a governance question. Mr. Zale, on your public Facebook page, Mike Zale, Ogden Town Supervisor, on March 28th, you posted an entry titled, "In Support of Rochester Police Officers and Interagency Cooperation." Using phrases like, "With all due respect to my colleagues in government regarding Mayor Evans, I want him to succeed," you made a lengthy statement that was summed up with, quote, "The town of Ogden will continue to provide support when asked by any and all agencies in need." First, you absolutely have the right to make this statement, both as an individual and representative of the town. You absolutely have the freedom to say anything you want on social media or otherwise. But when you make such statements on a page that contains the name Ogden Town Supervisor, I feel moved to take it to heart, as I have made Ogden my home for 20 plus years, and I'd like to illustrate a few things and then ask the question. The incident you were referring to in your March 28th Facebook post occurred on March 25th. The story broke on March 26th, at which time it was under investigation by the RPD. Less than 24 hours after the event, it was being reported, investigated, and managed by the municipality in which it occurred. You made your Facebook statement within 48 hours of a report of the incident, despite knowing the investigation was ongoing. RPD body-worn camera footage was released on April 3rd. The footage clearly shows that upon arrival of 12 RPD officers, multiple ICE agents were already surrounding a van with occupants, and there was one woman crying outside the van door. There was no crowd. The occupants of the van and the woman were obviously outnumbered. She was very distraught and sobbing, and there was no discussion of a warrant. There's no indication the situation was emergent. There's a sobbing woman, scared men, and an RPD officer using deception to get the doors of the van open, threatening to break the windows. Eventually, they coerced the door open and took custody of the occupants. All of these details aside, your March 28th Facebook post was not about getting a better understanding of the incident, but rather it was to ensure everyone knew your position. Honestly, I can't imagine anyone in Ogden, or frankly all of Monroe County, questioning your support for law enforcement. At this point though, I question whether you support all of your constituents or just the ones you agree with. Which brings me to my question. When my son was a student at Canal View Elementary here in Spencerport in the 4th grade, halfway through the year, a boy named Mohammed joined his class. My son and Mohammed, a non-English speaker, eventually bonded over international soccer. His family was a refugee family from the war-torn region of Aleppo, right here at Canalview. He and his family found comfort, compassion, and acceptance right here, and I could not be prouder of everyone. A year later, when my son was in 5th grade, he became friends with a boy from China who went by the name Andy. His parents were both researchers at the U of R and active in PTA events. Andy even joined us on the Darien Lake band trip, and I took him on his first American roller coaster, and I'll never forget the joy on his face. In both the case of Mohammed and Andy, I have zero clue what their or their family's immigration status was. But I do know that both families found joy, compassion, and friendship and real refuge here in Ogden, and that makes me so proud. In the past month, in addition to the Rochester incident I mentioned, ICE has detained and transported 3 students in Sackett's Harbor, New York. Canadian citizens are now required to obtain a visa for stays longer than 30 days. And ICE is disappearing people to prison camps in El Salvador without providing them due process. Student visas are being arbitrarily revoked. So circling back to your statement, the town of Ogden will continue to provide support when asked by any and all agencies in need. If ICE were refused entry into one of our schools, as I understand is the current policy, and they were to call OPD for support, what will your direction be? And I just want to know because I think everyone in Ogden deserves to know your position.
I think my statement is my position. I had no statement whatsoever surrounding immigration or ICE specifically. What I'm stating is that when our police officers do get called from federal agents every year on more than one occasion, and our responsibility and our duty to have interagency cooperation is not something that I take lightly. I don't think that the purpose of that statement has anything to do with immigration. I understand that that is what ended up transpiring, but when you have a public statement from your boss on the way that you handled a situation, I don't know that that's something that I would do. I'm not saying that the RPD officers were in line or not in line. I know that there were general orders that specifically state that they're allowed to, and I think that it really does highlight the complexity of these situations. My frustration is that we cannot sit down and interview and hire 25 police candidates because nobody wants to be in law enforcement. And I think you would agree that it is a very dangerous and it is a very difficult climate. We have a police department. I support our police department. I am in charge of our police department. I do not direct our police department. So the insinuation on asking me whether I would direct our police department to break school protocol and to go inside the school district or whatever the insinuation is disingenuous to what is actually written there. And I know that this is something that kind of you took some things out of context there, but what I wrote is pretty specific to interagency assistance, has nothing to do with I think you had even said something about that RPD had processed these people and they were owed due process. None of my statements had anything to do with that whatsoever.
That's true, and I did not reiterate that here.
Understood.
You're right about that. My point was that when you made your statement on March 28th, everybody, including me, had already known via the mayor and police chief's press conference that it was an immigration issue involving ICE. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't have known that, but when you made your statement on March 28th, you said the town of Ogden will continue to provide support when asked by any and all agencies in need. Would that include ICE on an immigration issue?
So if you are asking me if we would respond to help interagency when they call for help, the answer is yes. Would our police officers have any jurisdiction whatsoever dealing with deportation or immigration? The answer is no.
Well, neither did RPD.
And don't know that I'm necessarily questioning that. I also don't know that I know or don't know whether the RPD officers responded specifically targeting immigration. By the accounts of the union, that is not what they specifically responded for. So
Of course.
that's my
The accounts
response.
of the union. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Are we not friendly with unions?
We're very friendly with unions.
So I don't understand why you said that, because we have a police union, we have a highway union, and these are people that we have to support and that we negotiate contracts with every year, and
You
the
have a
language
great
of those
track record
contracts are pretty
supporting
good.
our highway union.
Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
appreciate it. Anyone else have comment for the board?
Hi there. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Joanna Haynes. I live in Hilton, actually. And I'm here today with my daughter. And I too 100% support her comments and what she just said to you, because I believe that, not even that I believe that, but we all saw that you took a position there, and that position further divided us. We are already in a community that we're feeling the heat of everybody, I want to say, it just further puts a flame on what positions we all take, okay? I am here to just say that I support the mayor. I support the mayor in trying to uphold a policy that this is a sanctuary community. It is. It's a sanctuary city. And by saying that, it just kind of says that you support police officers not obeying policy. So what's to say if something happens in one of our communities that really they're not supposed to be doing, and they do it anyways? You know what I'm saying? So it just brings fear to the community and also to the vulnerable people that are in our communities. So I just, frankly, I'm appalled. I'm appalled. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a mother, my daughter goes to Hilton School District, and it's just, I would like to request that you take down that post and that you publicly apologize to the mayor and you publicly apologize to the chief of police, because while you support those individuals who decided to go against the policy and against them being told to stand down, you're supporting the chief of police who just said that they needed to stand down. So I'm just, that's why I'm here. It's just to say that, that's what I want, but I'm probably not gonna get it. But we have it on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else that wishes to address the board at this time?
Well, I'm taking a slightly different stance here.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Ryan Favada.
Thank you.
I live at 1 Widger Road. Vanessa is my wife. We have nothing to do with each other on this topic. We have a population of 20,000 plus, I saw, as of the 2023 census, I think. We don't have I'm not even well versed on how often we even take censuses. But 8.4% of that 20,000 are under 65 with disabilities. My apologies for emotions. My daughter is considered disabled. I serve 60 plus people through Lifetime Assistance Incorporated. If any of you know what that is, you can acknowledge or not. We take care of people with disabilities of great magnitude. Some come to work to get away from their home because it's not good. Some people come to I say work, but they come to a program where it's funded by Medicaid, strictly by Medicaid. They only get income through Medicaid. There are 8.4% who are under 65 and people with disabilities. Some of those people, right off of Lyle, where some people live, and some people I'm sure know, there is an office building. We are A7 in that office building at 2700 Lyle. There's a foot doctor and a child care place, to which I do not know the names, but I'm sure you guys know where it is, kitty corner to like the fire department. We service 40 people off of Elm Grove Road, 8 people out of Lyle, and Trinity Emmanuel Church, we have 7 people over there. Just those people alone. If Medicaid is not kept at a federal level and it trickles down to us, those people, and including myself and the thousands of employees and the hundreds to maybe 1,000 plus, I was trying to look it up and I don't know the exact number, are also going to A, lose a job, and A, lose all of their actual income. Some of these people, again, like I stated before, are getting away from home to come to lifetime assistance to get cared for. That is the only care they actually get. They do not get care at home. So the agency is strictly relying on Medicaid. And I don't really know if I'm going to have a job on a day-to-day basis based on the fact of if Medicaid is even going to be a thing soon. 22.5% are under 18. That's 4,500 people. Those are considered kids. Kids mostly have a lot of Medicaid involved in their lives. 17.4% are over 65. Some of you might be over 65. Medicaid affects you, but it also affects other people, a lot of other people. 3,480 approximately. 7.5% are in poverty, 1,500 plus people. That is also Medicaid. The percentage of pregnant women, some of you said you had kids, some of them said they had kids. All of them, probably, all of the women that we're talking about here, probably had Medicaid during that pregnancy, shortly after that pregnancy. Food stamps, SNAP, all sorts of things. The percentage of people who we know, someone who's affected, to piggyback off of that, is an exponentially large number of people. So this is not a small problem. It impacts everyone somehow. I just want to know, again, what are we going to do? When it comes down to it, if Medicaid is not a thing, how is this community going to be held together? Just not even on Medicaid, I guess, but Medicaid is what I'm up here for. But how are we going to hold us together? You keep saying that, which I consider dodging by most means, that we are doing fairly well and have done fairly well during other circumstances, but as my wife stated, and that I can state to the truth, this is not normal. There's nothing normal about this. This is borderline insanity. This is not a small problem.
I can answer you directly on Medicare. When I was in the county legislature, I think it was close to 80% of our budget was made up of Medicare. It was predetermined by the county. So what you may say, because I do understand that some of the statements tonight are charged in a certain way, you're wondering if the town should take on a function that doesn't belong to the town to take on. Medicare, as funded by the county or by the state, is not a service, is not a function of the town. And that's not because Ogden's unique or because we've decided not to. Those powers and those responsibilities are not given to towns. I'm not saying it doesn't affect the residents. I'm just saying when we build a budget, we're building it based on services that the town is responsible for. And so I understand everything you're saying. I have family and friends that work for Lifetime Assistance. I taught and coached at Rush Henrietta High School, where there was 42 different languages spoken, and some of my students were refugees. And so it's not as though I don't understand something that I've been involved in. I worked at a school district that was 52% impoverished in Brockport. I started our Food Link program program, that now has a warehouse on the west side, you know. This isn't, I'm not trying to grab badges and throw them on, I'm just saying that these types of concerns are real, and I just want to encourage you that go to the county, and they have a privilege of the floor similar to this. And I would continue to be a good advocate the way that you have been. It's not dodging, it's just trying to say that the responsibilities given to the town are outside of that.
Right, and I don't mean dodging by virtue of the fact that you're not giving an answer. I just mean you're giving a roundabout answer, and not taking a stance on it, which is what I think a lot of people want, is that somebody that has the status, that holds a position as high as yours, who really has all these other people sitting next to them who also hold equal titles of a very elevated status compared to the rest of us. The rest of us hold a job in the community, and some of us do advocate for a lot of people and do actually have say in what goes on in the community in some way, shape, or form, but you guys have a lot more than us. And combined, if you take a stance and you do say that we're going to pass this on to somebody else, like you said, you might not address the questions that we ask, and I'm by no means telling you that you're like a shit person or that you don't have any moral values. I find it to be, if you don't take a stance and you don't assist all these people who have come up to you, and yes, you say it's charged, but it should be charged. It absolutely should be, because if all of us sit around and do nothing, then what do we get? We get nothing. So we have to do something, and yes, we are coming up here, and some of us crying, including myself, some of us very emotional, yes, but it's not emotionally charged, it's love and dedication to the cause. And what that is us coming up here and saying, pass this on. Because we put you guys where you are. Right? So even if you hate the fact that I just stepped up here and kind of called you out, kind of, sort of, I didn't really. I'm calling you out on the fact that you may not move forward, or you may not try to discuss with the rest of the gentlemen up here that there's an issue at hand, and that you have connections that I don't. I call Morelli, Gillibrand, I call them all. Every day I call them, without missing a beat. I pull in my driveway, and before I talk to my kids, I talk to the county. I talk to the state. I call Schumer. I'm appalled at all of them. It's not you. I'm appalled with all of them. I'm appalled with all of you. Because all of you should be able to stand up here, and then when you walk out, take all of what we've said and pass it on to somebody who can do something if you can't. Because you have more pull than I do. That's why I'm here. Because my kids and their kids and your kids depend on this. This meeting is nothing if something doesn't come of it. And that's all I'm up here for. It's not to tell you you're a bad person. Like I said, I don't know you. I know that you posted something I disagree with, but I disagree with a lot of things. You disagree with me. We don't have to fight about it. You just have to help me.
We are both Sabres fans.
That's true, and that's also a struggle.
It's a fact.
I appreciate your words, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to address the board at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close privilege of the floor. We'll move to reports and remittances, Resolution 130.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Any opposed? Item carries. Next, Town Audits, Resolution 131.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. There are a number of correspondences, some that are given by the Gates Police Department as a recommendation from one of our Ogden Special Police Officers, an invitation from the American Legion for the annual Memorial Day celebration, a letter from our finance office, and another letter from our special police department. So from there, we're gonna move to reports and remittances from town officers. Let me just pull mine up real quick here. Okay. On April 2nd, we were notified that we had been awarded the 2025 FlimHit Wellness Grant, which helps support our employee wellness program. We honestly use these grants to host events. We actually just had a great event at the bowling alley with our employees. Great opportunity to just be able to get outside of the these walls and be able to have a good time with each other. I've never done a bowling event with employees, and it was great. But this grant helps in a lot of cultural ways. It really does help with health and wellness and nutrition and things of that nature. So glad that we were able to secure that grant. On May 9th, coming up, the town will host a free rabies clinic at Town Hall, 5:30 to 7:30. You do have to sign up for that. That's something that our animal control officer has worked on really for almost a year, and then we've partnered with not only the county, but with some of the area organizations. There's a place, it's actually a new facility here in Ogden called Keller's Cats that does a lot of rescues. And we also are linking up with 3CS, which does a lot of donation support for cats, but also for homeless animals and getting them placed. So we're teaming up with all those for this free rabies clinic that we've got. It's going to be a drive-through, which makes it a lot more convenient for people. Ariel says it makes it so that the dogs don't fight and the cats don't fight, and it's also for ferrets. I don't know how many people have pet ferrets, but that's a thing. We had something at the most recent Rotary meeting. One of the business owners came up with this idea, and it's absolutely awesome. We were just talking about engagement with students over the summer. And as you know, we helped out with the great alphabet hunt around town, and I know a lot of our business owners did as well, and we're gonna help out again this year. But we thought it'd be interesting to try to promote fishing on the canal, and obviously, doing it legally, and I had to text our town clerk, what's the age limit for that? And so we're working on it, preliminary stages, but the business owner came up with the title and everything, and I thought it was great, just to kind of promote additional community in relationship with our police department. And they said you could call it, it's a fishing event, and they said you could call it Cops in Bobbers. And I was like, I don't even care what it is, the name alone sells me on it. So excited to be working on that for this summer. Speaking of our police department, you all may have heard that an M&T Bank in Brockport, of which I did most of the landscaping for back in the day as a high school student, was robbed, $430-something thousand in cash, which is interesting on its face. But the county has this initiative to install what they call plate readers in areas of higher volume traffic. And the county came to the Supervisors Association to explain this, because if for people that don't have a police department, it feels kind of big brothery, that you've got these things reading your license plates. And these aren't to stop you for minor traffic or speeding or not stopping at a stop sign. It's really when there is a robbery, for instance, in Brockport, and they are able to get a slight depiction of the vehicle, they can use that information, put it into the county system, and then any time that car, typically traveling east, is going to where they're headed, they may pass a plate reader, and that would help in the enforcement of trying to navigate to catch the bad guys. So this actually was tracked down 104 into Greece, and they were able to use that technology to stop and apprehend. So there is a push from the county to place more of these for this purpose, and really, honestly, you're trying to catch robbers, murderers, rapists, people that should not be out and about in the community. And so it's a fairly expansive program that the Sheriff's Department is putting together. We have a historian that applied for and got some funding to remark Ogden Center. The road here is Ogden Center Road, but the area is actually traditionally called Ogden Center. And so we have a marker to commemorate the center. There used to be one many years ago, and so I applaud Jesse's efforts to make sure that is commemorated in our town. I had the great opportunity to support and help out with the Open Door Mission Breakfast, along with a ton of leaders across the city of Rochester and across all of the municipalities here. Great. They just purchased a new facility for housing. Obviously, really support this organization. On Thursday, May 1st, we're going to gather at 8 a.m., which we do before the workday, for anybody interested, at the flagpole outside Ogden Farmers Library for a unity prayer. This is in observance of National Day of Prayer. It is a unifaith celebration. We get people from all denominations and walks of life that come and really just take the time to find unity on that day. I will say this might be the more lengthy of the conversation, seeing as we talked about federal funding. I don't have the best update for the Gillette Road Bridge. We've been asked to reapply for the federal grant, and I did some digging to try to figure out why that is. And when I say we really joined the county. It's a county road, it's a CSX bridge. There's really no part of it other than it's in town that really belongs to the town. So we are asking the state, and by we, again, I mean the county, we joined Mayor Evans and we joined Executive Bello in asking for a whole bunch of different bridge and road projects funding. So when I say I do wish for my partners in government to be successful, I mean it, because I work with them and I talk to them. In the book of bridges that we put together, we made sure that we put together the Gillette Road Bridge. I believe it's about a $2 million or $2.5 million ask for that. We had about $2.5 million that came through from the House side of Congress. That would be Congressman Morelli. And unfortunately, the Senate side only came through with about 1.5, and the Senate and the House have to agree. So it's not like we get 1.5 plus 2.5, it's you get one or the other. So I was told that the federal government did not fund any of those projects. And so that's a pretty huge hit to us, because we're kind of relying on that money coming in to help with this bridge, which, to be honest, we shouldn't have to rely on any of it. It's CSX's bridge. They should just fix the whole thing. But what's really fascinating to me, talking about budgets, federal, state, whatever, otherwise, I guess I didn't really realize, because I do not watch CNN, I do not watch Fox News. I guess I didn't realize that for the last year, more than a year, that we at the federal level were not really passing budgets at all. And so any of these things that were not funded right now actually weren't funded last September. That's what Congressman Morelli said. And what's frustrating about that is Senator Schumer is the fourth most powerful person in the United States, and for whatever reason, even though he came here to advocate for the bridge, did not put the funding as the majority leader for the bridge. And I don't say that to be political. I say that to say it doesn't matter. The bridge isn't going to be red. It's not going to be blue. It just needs to be completely demolished, and a road needs to be paved there. So I talked with Congressman Morelli on this week, just expressing my frustration with us having to reapply for this. And I do appreciate that when I call him, he actually answers the phone. I think that's weird, but I appreciate that. We've developed a relationship that's cordial, and we're all working on projects that are apolitical. But I am frustrated that we're left in this situation where we weren't even given the opportunity to apply for grants, because last year's Senate did not fund these projects. So that means that we don't have the opportunity to apply for grants this year. They didn't even release it. They didn't even put the stuff out. We asked time and time again, and we couldn't understand why. And then at the very last second, they told us why. They would not tell us what was going on. So they're trying to refund projects that were never funded last year, like last July, when they were all awarded. So that's a little bit frustrating, and to anybody that has concerns about future funding at the federal level, I join you. I mean, we do not have $8.3 million to tackle projects like this, and we never were meant to. The town is, like I was saying to my buddy, the Sabres fan, there are certain things that are our jurisdiction, and there's certain things that aren't. I would love to fix every pothole on Main Street. It's not our jurisdiction. So those are some of the things that we're navigating that are some of the trickle-down effects, not just from what's going on this month or last month, but last year. And we continue to try to navigate those things. So what we've done, and this is maybe more of the positive note, is that we're trying to tackle this a little bit differently. I want to make sure that we are approaching the necessity of the bridge being fixed from a standpoint outside of convenience. It's certainly inconvenient. It's also a safety risk, which the very first call that I had with Congressman Morelli was on that. We literally showed him the distance between the hydrants and the apparatus that would be necessary should there be an emergency there. And so we're teaming up with the fire district, the police department, and the ambulance district to draft a letter that just addresses the safety issue of the prolonged closure, and grants aside, funding aside, to basically say, CSX, this is your responsibility. You knew about this back in 2006 when you got a red flag warning. You fixed it in 2009. You're still billing us. So I don't know how you can say that you don't own it. You have a bill for $400 and something
For the sewer crossing.
right? But we have to pay them because they own it. So we're trying to, when we are working in tandem with the county, their law department loves me because I bug them all the time. But everybody's in agreement on this, which I really appreciate the intergovernmental support on. So I'm sorry, we are not stopping our advocacy of this, and the draft of the letter, I actually just got the county's remarks from our letter, which is actually even more aggressive, which I love. And so we'll be issuing that when the time is right. But that's all agencies supporting and really trying to draw attention to the real, safety risk that this continues to impose. So I think that's that. Okay, great. Councilman Baker.
Just two things. It was, again, it was good to see everybody at the Open Door Mission, Mike and all the rest of the government partners over there. It's a good cause to support. I've been meeting with Chief Gray and Special Police Chief Zambuto over carnival preparations. That's coming up in less than 40 days? No, 60 days. So we're getting there. But they've been a real help, so it's been good partnering with them. That's it.
I know that you guys are making some changes this year too. You guys have been talking about it for a bit, just in enhanced safety measures because of some of the troubles, not just here, but across the county and some of these places.
Yep.
So you guys have been pretty proactive. Appreciate that for sure. Councilman Gerbino.
Nothing to report.
Councilman Hinman.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to mention is that at the last ZBA meeting, the board did, give two, conditional use permits to Quickly, so that's moving forward. And so just to move that forward, and then talking with, people involved with that, we really believe that that's one of the pieces going into that project that's gonna allow other people to come into those to fill out that space more, so that's a big step for that project, so. And that's all I got.
Actually, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Doug, not to put you on the spot, but I know that they're repaving 259 from 490 all the way to 104. Do we have any indication on the timing of that? Because I know that they need to address the traffic lights at that Walgreens.
Follow up and call the
Okay.
state, because there's nothing, I haven't gotten any correspondence on it yet.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they don't just decide not to fix the potholes because they're gonna eventually pave the whole thing.
Right.
Because some of those are
They gotta-
craters at this
People call,
point.
they gotta respond.
Yeah, okay.
They were actually out this week,
Yeah.
fixing some of them right in front of the cemetery.
Yeah, no, I've seen them out, but
Yeah.
you've got a couple like right in the village that are enormous.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, the paving has not, I've not gotten any notification on it officially, so.
Do we know where they're starting? Are they starting at 490, or are they starting?
We found it online that it's,
Yep.
on their website that they're doing it from 490
Okay.
to Ridge Road.
They have to coordinate with Ellicott, to be honest,
it's
because
really
they
bad.
have to make certain adjustments to the current road, to be honest. Because they're adding a bit more of a turn lane in there.
Yeah.
These are all things that we fought, yeah, I don't care, we fought against, and state DOT was like, we don't care what you say, town. So seriously, when I say that we're told to stay in our lane on a lot of things, we're told to stay in our lane.
It's their road.
Our voices do
Yeah.
matter, but, I mean, they can still just ignore us and tell us no, even on things like that. But, okay, let's see, Councilman Toms.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that this Saturday is the annual ham raffle that the Sons of the American Legion puts on over at the Legion Post from 1 to 5. If anybody's interested, it's a great fundraiser for the American Legion.
Very good. Highway Superintendent Doug Case.
Yes, let's see, our crews, removed the, splash pad and hauled stone to the contractors working down there, so that project's underway. And our assistance was completed for most of it. And we'll continue to assist in the other avenues we need to, down there. The coverall building was completed across the street from, the main highway in our storage facility back there. And the crews got that all by our town crews, so great job by the crews doing that. We actually got some equipment put underneath it for the upcoming show, so it's being used already. Brush pickup has started for, the year, so the crews are out doing that on a week-to-week basis. Sod repair continues on, we've got probably 3/4 of the town done, we got one more quadrant to finish. So we're working on that in between the snowflakes that we got this week, sadly. We're looking for spring and nicer weather, so. The fuel island's progressing along, all the concrete has been poured, except, just the little areas where they're gonna have to attach the canopies to the anchors. We've done some in-house coordination between getting ready to do the power supply and the fiber, met today with fiber, laying that out to part of the stuff that we're supplying to do. Reminder, the equipment show's next Wednesday at the Highway Department from 9 to 2. We also are busy taking appointments for the upcoming hazardous waste shredding electronics. It's been announced for June 7th at the highway, and that's it.
Very good. You have to sign up for the hazardous waste?
Yes, everybody needs I think you can do it online, or you can just call our office and
Whether it's
they'll,
hazardous waste, shredding, or any of that?
they'll get an appointment time. And they can usually it all runs together, so it's not, when you're coming through, you can drop it all off.
Very good. Thank you. Town Clerk Noel Burley.
We, have been dealing with a lot of solicitors issues lately. Right now, we currently do not have any permits that have been issued, and we have a couple of different companies that are out there, receiving a lot of calls from residents, concerned. So we're issues with them. They do not seem to be a reputable nor a good company, so we might deny them before they even apply. So, that's what we've been working on.
Very good. Okay, well, there being no old business, we'll move to new business. So, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind.
Resolution 132, authorizing the Town of Ogden Historian's Office to accept an unpaid volunteer for the summer of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 133, authorizing the Town of Ogden Finance Director Sherry Foley to make a budget transfer to accommodate payments to O'Toole Law Firm for professional services.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Gerbino. Any discussion on this? I'll just state for the record, because I do think often we see law firms for this and law firms for that with different purposes. Mr. O'Toole is the attorney for the town, for the ZBA, and for the planning board. We do pay him a stipend, but he represented the town in a litigation involving, I want to make sure that I say it right. Oh, it's not on here. Involving a sand and gravel pit on Canal Road. There was a determination made by the Zoning Board of Appeals. That decision was appealed by the property owner or user, and so this ended up in what's called a Section 78 to defend the town zoning board's ruling. The ruling was upheld because it was the right move. People should not be allowed to operate commercial businesses in a residential area. But obviously, there's a lot of time and prep in putting that together, and that's what that expense is for. We aren't often in litigation, but when we are, our attorneys want us to pay them. So, anything else on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, please.
Resolution 134, authorizing the Ogden Town Supervisor Mike Sale to execute field use agreement with Spencerport Junior Baseball and Softball, Spencerport Youth Lacrosse, and Spencerport Soccer Club for the 2025 sports seasons.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Gerbino, seconded by Councilman Toms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Good luck to all of our kids playing sports in our park. Next, please.
Resolution 135, authorizing an agreement with Seasonal Lawn and Landscape for the provision of 2025 mowing services at properties maintained by the town.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other issues to come before the town? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion that we move to work session.
Motion.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by
Me.
Councilman Hinman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned to